Hey guys, listen, I've got something I kinda need to run by you. Do you know what a McFlurry is? Because I do, and I didn't eat them when they were big a couple of years back, but they made a little bit of a resurgence recently. McDonald's has been trying to push McFlurries out again. Actually, you know what? I don't even know if they stopped selling them. But the fact is, I never liked McFlurries, but I'm a big fan of marshmallows, and I was in Adelaide recently doing a comedy festival show over there. Sorry, a fringe show. And myself and a few friends were sitting in a burrito joint directly across from a McDonald's. So we could see the posters in the window. And I was a little bit drunk. And I was in the middle of a fucking amazing burrito. Like, I was just making love to this thing. And I look up and I see this poster for the new bubblegum McFlurries. There's bubblegum and marshmallows. And it looks like they've literally gone to the animal that diabetes is distilled from and just milked this fucker into like a thing. It's not a great metaphor, but you know what? It doesn't matter. Okay, so I'm looking at this poster and I'm like halfway through our burrito. I think, you know what would really follow up a really good burrito? A fucking McFlurry. So I state this intent to the people sitting with me, and they say, Paul, you don't need a McFlurry. And I say, well, we don't need a burrito. And they say, we do. And it goes on, and it wasn't a very interesting conversation. But what was interesting is the fact that afterwards, I managed to successfully coerce my companions, and they followed me across the McDonald's. I stagger up to the counter, and I ask for this bubblegum McFlurry. Now, this is where things get a bit weird. I'm eating this McFlurry, and I realize that they haven't just put in those little tiny, like, cocktail marshmallows or whatever they are. Here's a picture of them. So you know those marshmallows, okay? They're soft, and they're cheap, and they're typically used in desserts at, like, you might get them at Pizza Hut, right? They're in those little kind of, they have all the different fixins to put on your fucking eye. You know what the fuck I'm talking about. But these McFlurries had these special, incredibly fake, incredibly bad for you marshmallows, which looked like little lumps or nuggets, and they were slightly harder on the outside. So when you mix them in, the texture is incredible. So we're walking down this main street in Adelaide, and I'm just pissing myself with glee. Like, there's fucking rainbows spewing out my dick, and I'm just walking down the street, just spazzing out loudly. Probably too loudly. Hawkers from, like, a strip club are just, whoa, you are coming on too strong. And I'm sitting there just nomming on this McFlurry. And I swear to God, if McDonald's had come up to me at that point and said, look, Paul, we know you are in no way correct for our demographic, but we'd like you to endorse the McFlurry. And if I knew that would effectively quash any chance I had at, you know, furthering the credibility I had in the media, I would fucking do it. Only at that point, though, because I'm eating this thing, and I swear to God, it was so good. And so when I got back to Melbourne after the Fringe, a few weeks later, I'm just leaving. I think I was bowling with a friend of mine, Moose, and again we'd had a few beers, and we're walking past a McDonald's, and I see the poster, and I'm like, man, that McFlurry was great. Let's do it again. And Moose is like, really? And I go, oh, trust me, McFlurries have come far since we last had them, since we were kids or whatever. And so we walk into McDonald's, and I ask for the McFlurry. I get the McFlurry. At this point, there is like 3 weeks of bottled up McFlurry lust, just like fucking behind the back of my brain, you know, the part where everything wants stuff. And so I get the McFlurry, and I turn to him and I go, alright, it's time to lay this baby to rest. And I bite into the McFlurry, and they changed the marshmallows. And this might not seem like a big deal, but the whole fucking appeal of these McFlurries is the marshmallows, these hard, fake marshmallows. And I'm walking down the road with Moose, and I'm so angry. Like, I'm getting angry now just thinking about it. I'm fucking boiling with fucking hatred, and I'm thinking, okay, the only way that they hadn't put the proper marshmallows in is if they ran out. And Moose says, they're all marshmallows, what's the difference? Which is the typical response of someone, I could have stabbed him in the fucking heart, but he just paid for my McFlurry, so I couldn't. So we're walking down the street. We're about to get to a massive intersection, and I'm ranting, and people are like swerving around me because I look like a crazy person. A little bit like I do now, but amplified, but even more so. We get down to the intersection, and I've made a decision at this point. And I say, excuse me, and I say to Moose, look, I don't even want this McFlurry anymore. I would rather throw this in the bin than eat it. And he's like, you can't do that, it's food. And I'm like, you know what, I'm a fucking adult, I can do what I want. And I got real indignant and self-righteous, much like I am now. And there's a bin on the corner, and the traffic is just like bottlenecked, and there's cars everywhere. At this point, the bin is right next to the intersection. And I walk over to the bin, and I turn to Moose, and I go, "This is what I think of the McFlurry." And he's like, "They're the same marshmallows." And I go, "No, they're fucking not. I don't even want this." And I'm about to slam dunk this McFlurry into the bin. And I turn towards the intersection, and I see that there's this big SUV filled with fucking children, right? So there's like an adult in the front of the SUV, and these kids, fat little hands, sandwiched against the window, just, watching me, because they know what's about to happen, and the dad knows what's about to happen. And I know that the dad's going to have to explain about the crazy person who is just like, throwing out dessert. Because kids like, when I was a kid, I wasn't typically allowed to have a lot of junk food. So what I'm effectively doing is just pissing on the dreams of several children. But they're sitting there watching, and I have this moment. And I think, hand raised in the air, with this perfectly good McFlurry. And I think, you know what? Fuck that. I gotta learn sometime. And I look them dead in the eye. Like I'm looking at these kids, and I just go, poof, and I dunk this thing. And I walk away. And then I turn back around to yell something at them. I think I had like this Klingon-grade bloodlust surging through me, and Moose has to physically restrain me, and he's dragging me away from this bin. And I was like, "Fucking kids and their rap music!" He drags me around the corner, and then he manages to calm me down a bit, and he goes, "Okay, look, supposing that what you say is true," and I'm like, "It is true!" And he's like, "Okay, let's just take it down a notch. Let's just say that this McDonald's doesn't have these magical marshmallows, which you know, seem to be so in love with. Let's check another McDonald's." And I'm like, "Okay, finally, some fucking logic." So we walk up to another McDonald's a few blocks away, and I get to the counter, and I look back to where they have the the marshmallows and shit underneath the soft serve machine, where they make the McFlurries. And I can tell from this distance that they're not the same marshmallows. So Moose goes, "Maybe it was just that one store in Adelaide." So I literally grab him by the scruff of his stupid neck, drag him outside, and point to the poster, and I go, "Do they look like the same marshmallows?" And he says, "Yeah, I guess." And I'm like, "No, you don't guess. The shape is different." So I take him to my house, and I sit there with him like he's a fucking toddler, and I draw these marshmallows, and I'm searching through images on the internet, and I'm trying to prove to him, I swear to God, it was like I was trying to explain the third gunman on the grassy knoll to somebody. And he just wasn't buying it. But then Moose reveals to me several weeks later that he doesn't like food. As in, he literally thinks that food is only a source of fuel for the human body. It is in no way made for enjoyment. Not for him anyway. He kind of sympathizes with people, but he's not qualified to tell me that these aren't the same marshmallows. I cannot believe how angry I'm getting about this. So what I want you to do is just fucking back me up. Have you had this McFlurry at a McDonald's anywhere recently? Have you? If you have you noticed the difference in the marshmallows? Look on the poster, you massive... If you can't tell the difference between a shitty cheap marshmallow and a shitty cheap marshmallow made specifically for these McFlurries, then you are smoking something. Maybe they ran out. Maybe it's just bad luck. But I know I had them in Adelaide. In fact, I think I gave some to my friend to taste. But again, you got to understand, my love affair with sugar is heroically bad. Like, I once worked at a video store where they had this propensity for ordering candy bars from different countries. So we had all the Reese's and Junior Mints and shit, but we also had every single chocolate. Because I think what happens is if you work at a retail place, reps from different companies will come up and like plug their products. And my manager at the time was fairly pliant, so she said yes to everyone. We had the most spectacular selection of confectionery. And what I did one night, on admittedly a massive sugar high, was I sniffed I picked up every single variety of candy bar and sniffed them to see which ones could be smelled through the wrapper. What I learned from this expedition, apart from the fact that girls don't like walking in on a guy working at a video store smelling candy like a fucking animal, is the fact that you can only smell Chop and Curly Wurly. Now this is because they are the cheapest candy bars, and therefore the wrapper doesn't have a... I think by this point you've probably learned that I have a lot invested in confectionery. I have the equivalent of Daredevil's, like, ability to see shit that no one else can see. You know how Daredevil can... the movie was terrible. The comic's great. My point is that I have a fairly heightened sensibility when it comes to gauging different kinds of confectionery. And these were different marshmallows. You massive ass hats. I'm referring to people at McDonald's. Please, just please, can somebody get on Twitter and just verify the fact that these are different marshmallows? I'm so angry! I literally care about this more than my well-being at this point. All I've eaten today is a box of cookie dough bites. Do you know why I bought them? Because I hadn't had them before. I am a fucking Renaissance confectionery guy. Like, I will eat... I'm just saying that I'm qualified to make this statement. And if you can help, please, tweet at me. Talk to McDonald's. If you work at McDonald's, can you verify this? I just want to know I'm not crazy. And most importantly, I want to grab Moose by his stupid face and tell him I was right. Thank you for listening.